Welcome to the Jackie Scully Show. This is not your ordinary podcast. This is a space for heart-centered conversations, bold ideas, and transformative visions. I sit down with thought leaders and visionaries who are making waves in the world of heart, education, and consciousness. Together, we explore how we want to live, co-create, and thrive in 2025 and beyond. Every Friday, join me for inspirational and thought-provoking stories of everyday people creating extraordinary impact. These individuals are sparking waves of positive change, embodying the kind of impact we all aspire to create. This season, 3 powerful themes emerge: the heart of wholeness, exploring inner love, emotional balance, and our deep connection with awe; the future of education, rethinking learning through personalized pathways, collaborative growth, and community-driven transformation; and a new era of consciousness, expanding possibilities and how we live and thrive together. Come sit with me. Let's dream, build, and embody the world we wish to see. This is the Jackie Scully Show. Enjoy. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Jackie Scully Show. I am really excited to have my guest on today, Manoj Swarup. And he is the founder and creator of LyfeIndex, which is an innovative online platform that honors the lives of our departed loved ones by providing a lasting digital space for writing and sharing memorials. I'm all about this. I am a history teacher. My family's big with like ancestry and talking about it, documenting it, all of that. So when you reached out to me, I just felt, wow, we're going to have a lot to share and a lot to talk about. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure. The minute I read your profile, I wanted to get onto that podcast, wanted to talk more about because the relation history and it really works for me.
Yeah, great. Well, before we get into LyfeIndex and how you came about creating that platform, can you tell us just a little bit about your background story or maybe anything that would be a lead up into creating this platform?
Sure. So let's start from the day I was born. So I was born in India, moved across, and never lived in India, and I've been traveling all my life. My dad and mom kind of traveled all across, did my schooling across the world. And I think in that learned a lot of different cultures, learned a lot of different things from different cultures. Now, I've done loads of jobs across because of that as well. And where the entire story starts about Life Index, it starts from, I lost my mom to COVID and cancer. And once I lost her, I wanted to make sure that a lot of things about her are known by the next generations. Because as of today, if you look at anybody, let's say my ancestors, I don't know anything about them. I wanted to make sure that when I leave, my mom is still spoken of. Maybe by not the entire world, maybe by my next generations. And that's what I wanted to leave behind. And that's where the concept, but that's where the idea started developing. That how do I want to commemorate her? First, I thought of putting up you know, putting up a statue. And then I said, a statue won't tell you the entire story. It will just give you a statue and somebody pointing somewhere. But will it tell everything? And where do I place it? If I place it in a town or a city where my kids or my next generations might not even go, what's the use of it? Then I said, fine, let's put a bench somewhere in the park. But then people don't use the bench wisely. They'll sit over there, put the bum on it, and then go away. And then they might not even read the name. Will it tell the story? And I came back to the idea, no, it won't. So I wanted to leave a legacy. I wanted to make sure that everything of her is known, not just about pictures. It was about a story about her, who she was, what did she do, how did she die, what did she die of, and anything that I have with her, moments with her, anecdotes with her. That's where it started from.
I love that. And I'm sorry of the loss, especially during the time of COVID and, having your mom, battle cancer. That's something that we've gone through in our own family. And it was right before COVID. But I love that this also became part of this mission, to want to give back and really honor your mom and then honor so many of our past loved ones. And again, going back to my connection of being a history teacher, we only really learn those stories of people in history that are like the big leaders, right? Or, you know, the one perspective of who's ever writing that story. But we all have stories, and every human that lives through this experience has something to share, has wisdom to pass down, has that legacy that you talk about. So I think this is just a beautiful way to honor people, and every single person is important. It's not just those leaders, those victors in history that are filling our history books, but I could imagine this being part of maybe even like a history class, right? Like students tapping into learning about their family and having a place to really learn about their family. Because I know a lot of students and just people in general today that just don't know that much about their family. It all depends on who's passing that information down in their own family. So to have a platform that can house all of these stories is pretty incredible. So just to lean into that a little bit more, tell us about the birth of this platform and more about, how people can access it, how you go about collecting these stories, how they are shared. I can't wait
Sure.
to learn more. Yeah.
No worries. I think you said it rightly and beautifully that, the only people that we remember or are ever spoken of, the rich, famous, the kings, queens, the president and prime ministers. Where do our stories go? Where do our, family members who've done so much for us? Where do their stories go? In order for me to be here, my mom must have done something really amazing for me to be here alive and taking care and taking her legacy ahead. With you, the same thing. Your parents must have done something wonderful. That's why you were here. Otherwise, do you think on our own we could have been somewhere? I don't think so. You've seen loads of those kids out in the middle of the road, but nothing happens. And where does their legacy go? Nobody knows. So that's where the entire thing came back. I wanted to give back. Maybe I can never return what my mom's done for me, but I wanted to give to her that, this is my parting away gift to her. Thinking about it, my heart fills every time I talk about the story because I remember her, I talk about her, and people read about her. And that's where the entire Life Index started. And when it was started, people wanted to talk about it. People wanted to come onto the platform. And a lot of people would say, I don't need that story. We could keep forgetting, maybe you might not need that story. Have you thought about the next generations? Will they need that story? Now, stop being selfish. Now, everybody talks about social media. I've got this, I've got that social media, but that social media is only for that moment. But what about after that moment? After you're gone or somebody else in your life's gone, have you thought of kind of preserving them over there so that they can be remembered? A lot of people from a lot of different cultures came back and they said, "Oh, we've got a photograph. You've got a photograph? How amazing is that?" But then will that photograph tell the entire story to those next generations? And as you even said, today kids are all over the place. And I was speaking to somebody in Malaysia, and she does a lot of academic work, and she does all the books and all the syllabus in the schools and colleges. And she came back and she said, "I love the idea because kids can look for their roots, and once you have your roots, you're very well connected." And once you're connected, you're more grounded. And there's been wisdom passed on. And you will try to take that legacy further rather than letting it disappear. And that's where we start climbing those stages of life. As my father used to tell me that, my father came from a very small village in India. My grandfather was a principal. My dad wanted to go exceed, one step ahead of him. He became a diplomat, and then he became an ambassador. So I wanted to exceed that one place as well. Now I've got two brothers. They both exceeded. They both became doctors. Then I said, what am I doing with my life? I've done a lot of other jobs. I worked with the government and a few other things. But do you think that was it for me? No, I wanted to set a bar much higher than what they both have set. So that's where the ground reality is. The roots come in. And that's why I did not lose that reality. And I wanted to make that legacy even bigger. when you come back and say, a lot of people, when they go away, they take away with themselves their stories, the values, the culture, the heritage, the bloodline. And to top it all, they take away a lot of medical information. And when you take away a lot of medical information, let's say something that has skipped a generation, let's say my parent, if I did not know my mom had cancer and it had skipped her, then do I know if my grandparents had it? I would never get to know. And now I know because my mom had it. Now, do I know if my kids will have it? I can get them checked. But if it skipped me, what are the chances of in her DNA showing up, which are very less. So again, there'd be no story told beyond that. And that's where we came back and said, let's keep the medical history as well, so that the next generations can go back and reap benefits out of it. Rather than, lives are becoming shorter every year, every time. Let's elongate those lives, whatever it is. If you know a cause which has been running in your family, let's get protected by it. And we can't eradicate it completely, but at least when you know way beforehand, you will start taking measures. But if you don't know, you'll start running helter skelter all over the place. And if you look at NHS today, people go to NHS, few hours later they come back and they found dead because they
Mm.
were not diagnosed, and they were never known that there was something already running in the family. And if it's not diagnosed, how can you predict it? How can you do anything?
Yeah. It's so much more impactful than just, documenting a story, just to read it, to know about it, but it gives you information about your present state of like who you are and where you come from, and also your future, especially if you are having children. So I think that's so important. So just a little bit more of like the details. So how does someone go about accessing this platform, or if they want to tell a story of a past loved one, is it just coming from like their perspective, or is there any other sources or tools to kind of gather more information? I guess it just really depends on who's coming to you and what information that they have about, say, like a family member that passed away.
Sure. So how it works is you go onto the platform, click on Add Memorial, you put in your name, you put in your email address. The minute you do that, we don't ask if you usernames, we don't ask for passwords. Once that happens, the form opens up. You put in the details of the deceased family member. Now, why do we ask a family member to do it? Maybe a son, maybe a father, or maybe a mother, or maybe somebody who's closely related, because they have the best perspective of that person. Once that is, you put in everything about them, who they were and what you felt of them, and so on and so on. Once that's kept there, it comes back to us. We verify those details. We just don't let those details get published. When they come back to us, our AI and APIs go ahead and verify if this is true, if this person has really gone away. Now, anything before 1980s, we can't verify those, so we take it as, somebody's telling us the truth, we'll go ahead and do it. But anything after 1980s, because there were certificates issued, so we can go back with the hospitals and check. Once that's done, that profile goes live. That takes anywhere about 24 hours to 72 hours, depending upon the number of traffic that we have. Once that's done, that profile goes live. Once that profile goes live, now you can take that link because you get an email stating that this is the link. You can share that with friends, family members, whoever you want. And those people can come back and look at that. And once they come back, they can also leave their last messages for them, or they can write their bit as an extended form of it, and that could be seen by everybody. Now, we don't let you think about putting any other comments on it, but you can leave a heart that if you like it. If you don't like it, that's fine, individuals. But then you can leave a heart and saying that I like the post, or I like the last messages left for it. It's more like a condolences messages. When people come to the funeral, a lot of good things are said, but they never get documented. And when they don't get documented, you leave that lot of, that thing about how's this person perceived by a lot of other people around him or her.
Yeah. And I like the idea of making it kind of interactive. Like you have the family member add the information, then you share it with your family, and then you can add those hearts and those kind of condolences. And then it just becomes like this living. type of like
Right.
memorial. It reminds me of like Facebook. When someone passes away and people are writing on their wall, and then eventually it just kind of goes away, or someone might shut down their Facebook page. But this could be kind of like an ever-growing type of like memorial. I love that. Could someone, this might be out there. So say you're like, I'm the best person to write about my story. I mean, that's going to be the most authentic story. And maybe I'm not going to be like social media and write just all about my achievements and how wonderful I am, but maybe I want to tell a little bit of truth of the struggles and the things I've gone through, and maybe talk about the health things that I've gone through, just so that family members can know that that could be in, their DNA. But could a person while they're living write their own story? And maybe it happens when they're older, or maybe they're just like, you never know when something's going to happen.
Right.
Maybe I want to write my story. I don't, it just came to mind.
Sure. So the reason we don't bring in anything about the living people is we're not Facebook, we're not Instagram, we're not LinkedIn, and we want it to be different from all of those platforms. We're only for the deceased family members. So that legacy is written by a second person in your life, and that person gets to document everything what they felt of you, and it's more emotional because that's where the feeling comes from. And when you write your own biography, when people read that biography, people don't feel all that great about it. Yeah. But when it's written from a third person perspective and you find out everything about them, their love, their desires, their hatred, everything about them. And that's where the entire thing goes on. This reminds me of a story. I have a friend, and this friend was with somebody last night, another friend. And he went out there and he told them about LyfeIndex. And the minute he narrated the entire story about LyfeIndex, the mother was there. Mother is roughly about 70 years old. And the friend's mother broke down with tears when she started crying. And she said, I don't know if anybody would have done such a beautiful thing for somebody. And that's where the entire LyfeIndex thing is. It's about emotions. It's not about living that moment right now. It's about how you're perceived after you're gone, how people look at you. Well, when you come over and when you go to a funeral, people give out speeches, say things about you. That's only after you've gone. And that's how we want to be stated as LyfeIndex. When somebody's looking for their deceased family member or story about them, they don't think about anything else. They just say LyfeIndex. That's where you should go.
Mm. I love that. I love the emotion. You're capturing what that family member feels about that person and their legacy. And it could be holistic, all the things, again, not just necessarily achievements, but just maybe things that that person went through that were struggles as well. So thank you for explaining that. It came to mind in case someone's like, not meaning it would go live while you're living, but like, is someone documenting their story? But I do think there is bigger impact when someone can say those words and about how you impacted them. It reminds me of that Maya Angelou quote about like, people will remember how you made them feel. So that family
True.
member will be speaking from the heart because it's how you made that person feel. And you can see that in the words and you can feel it. So there's really like an energy there. There's an energy in that memorial. Do you have any testimonials or anything you want to share about so far since how long has this been up?
We've been around for 9 months. We've already got over 10,000 entries on our platform across the world, across 195 countries.
Wow.
And people are still coming on to it every day. Now, also, we got our seed funding about 3 days ago for 100,000. So that became a bigger picture for us because there are people who are interested in the entire platform. And believe it or not, the seed funding came all the way from the United States, not even from within the country or not from anywhere in India, but from the United States.
Wow.
And this lady, she came over and I met her for a few hours. And that's where the discussion went on about LyfeIndex. Within 3 days, we had the paperwork signed.
Wow, that's impressive. That's so wonderful. Congratulations. And I love that in real
Very
time
much.
here we're talking about it really taking a life of its own. So I love that growth. Are there any like personal stories or anyone that has been like using it and anything they've been sharing with you. I just love sharing testimonials because I give that
Sure.
gives like a heart
I'll,
to
I'll
what you're
give you,
doing.
sure. I'll give you a story before I dive into the story. When you spoke of why can't I do it for myself? Now, we charge a one-time fee of £7 or $9. That is one-time payment. We don't ask you every month, every year, just paid once and that remain. That keeps the stories over there. Now, if we wanted to do it for the living people, that'd be a lot of data issues because then we will have to build the entire security system and all of that. We have all the security system, but then when it's about the living people, there's somebody out there trying to breach those securities. There's somebody trying to break them. But can we do it within £7? No, we will need to charge you every day, and the day you go away, what are the chances of us leaving that platform? I mean, we not erasing your story because you're no longer a paid member. And that's why we only do it for the deceased
Mm,
people.
yeah.
The other thing about a story or a testimonial. So there was this gentleman, his father passed away on the 17th of January. Right after he passed away, he came onto the platform and he put in all the details. He sent us a message because we have a WhatsApp number. He sent us a message that is there a possibility you guys could get this up and running ASAP? I said, what's the hurry? I said, my dad's passed away and I want to make sure it's passed on to every family member while the time is still ripe or it's still hot. So I said, okay, let's do that. We got that up and running within 24 hours. And on the 19th of January, this gentleman sent out the link to every family member who was meant to be out there. 150 people came back to write their last messages. Today, the granddaughter, she reads that, and we got an email from this gentleman. My daughter reads this, and once in a while you see the tears trickling down her cheeks, and that's a beautiful thing because you know what she has, and she's only about 7 at this point in time, and she can remember everything.
Oh, wow, that's powerful. And it makes me think of grief. This could help with people when they're grieving because they have a
Sure,
place to go and read these stories and also share like their thoughts about it. And in grief, there's so much love because you're honoring that person and it
sure,
connects a family, maybe a family, sometimes family members, they all go kind of their separate ways, maybe live in different parts of the world. And when someone passes away, it can kind of bring family together, but then also in this place to share it digitally, especially if it's hard to get everyone in one place. Not everyone, maybe sometimes could even travel to go to, like, say, a funeral or something that is a memorial. And here is kind of that virtual sense of that memorial where you, as a family member, if you're not capable of going to the physical place, have this place to be part of that memorial. So I just see so much potential and I'm so glad that it is succeeding and taking off. And I think into like the next year, 2025, we'll probably even see even more growth. So we'll definitely have to stay in contact and see how this grows.
sure.
As my last part is just something kind of like fun and expansive on this podcast is there anything else like big ideas, sharing that you'd like to talk about, something you're super passionate about when it comes to humanity? It might connect to Life Index or just where we are as a world and where we're going in the future and how we can all just, make this a better experience and make this a better world.
Look at this way, you know, uh, because I've traveled the world, I know different cultures. This also brings you closer to a lot of different cultures, because every life form that we have, we at least meet roughly about 100,000 people. Out of those 100,000 people, there are roughly about 100 people who want to say their last words for you. And once they say those last words and they're heard or read by loads of people, that creates that impact in your life that, this is how I want to be. And that will bring the world closer to each other by stating, you know what, let's not fight. Because there's a lot of remorse. There are a lot of stories, those wars that are happening today. How do we stop those wars? Those are not because of money. Those are not because of, any other reasons. Those are just because of little hatreds built in. But then we forget those hatreds had little love for each other. Once upon a time we were one world, we're definitely not countries. We're one world. And then eventually, when we started discovering different countries, we started creating that creed, color, religion bit. Let's get over that, and let's start respecting each other and saying, you know what, you are as good as I am. And the most beautiful thing is that we all eat the same food. We name it differently. Isn't that right?
Hmm.
So let's say Middle East, if you go to, you've got biryani. You go to Spain, you go to South America, you've got paella. You go to China, you go to that part of the belt, you find one pot, right? You come to India, again, you find biryani, and this just travels all
Mm.
across. You look at pizza. Pizza, if you look at the real story of pizza, where did it start from? So the Turkish gave the base, the Italians gave the cheese, the Americans had something developed, which is a tomato, and that tomato went on top and it became a pizza. And isn't it a story of all of us coming together?
Yeah, shared experience, and I love that message because we are all one and we had a long time ago a world that was just Earth and it wasn't countries, it wasn't borders, it wasn't flags. We didn't really see skin color. We didn't see this is my religion, this is your religion. That's all man-made, right? It's all created. But biologically, we are very much the same. We have, like you said, and even like the foods we've created, we all have taste buds, we all have sensory experiences, we have a brain, we have a heart, we have emotions, we have families that we want to memorialize. So when
True.
we look for those connections, um, embrace diversity, embrace culture, because that's what makes, I think, life so much fun. And I love trying new foods and learning new languages and learning about people's background. But then when we can also tap into what makes us, the same, that could actually bring more peace. So I also see what you're creating in a way can help people connect because not only to go on there and read your family's story, but to read other people's stories. Maybe someone's so different than you. Maybe there was stereotypes about a certain group of people that you grew up in your family or hometown learning about. And then you learn about a regular common person in China or in South Africa or in India. And you're like, hey, there's a lot of their story that's also in how I've lived life or my story. I think that's how we stay connected. When I was teaching history, it's very hard to teach all the different diversity and backgrounds. And I was at a very diverse school, but you try your best to get as many kind of rich history stories, especially about like regular day people, which is also very hard to find. But when students read stories from just regular people from different backgrounds, it makes them realize that interconnectedness and it makes them have more compassion for others. And so that's
True.
why I think it is good to have those stories that really shows the humanity behind people and how they lived their life and how their family remembered them. I think there's a lot of love and peace in what you're doing. So
Thank you
I'm
very
all about
much.
it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any last words and any more information you want to share about how people can find you, the website? I'll have that all linked in the show notes as well.
Perfect. If people want to talk to me, I'm all over LinkedIn. All you have to do is type my name. I should show up right at the top. If you want to get to Life Index, all you have to do is look for Life Index, Life with a Y. And I'll tell you one more thing about Life, Lyfe. This was coined by my daughter. She was 9 at that time. And I was looking around for Life, couldn't find it. And I said, okay. Once we got that name, and it was a beautiful work done by my daughter. And I said, wow, how do we want to make it unique? So if you look at Lyfe, love you forever.
Hmm. Yes. Wow. I love that. That's beautiful. And your daughter came up with that.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
there's a legacy just in, what you're creating together as a family. The whole
True.
thing is about family and that legacy. That's beautiful. Love you forever. Life
Yes.
Index. Check it out, everyone. I am all about it. When that time comes, not like I want to think about past loved ones, but I do have lots of friends who, unfortunately have been losing family members, recently. And this is something I definitely would like to share with them. And when that time comes in my family, it's something that I definitely want to access because I would love to have their story documented and have that legacy documented. It's just a wonderful platform. So thank you so much for sharing about it and the work that you're doing.
Thank you very much. Scully, Jackie, very quick question. Are your parents still around?
They are.
Are your grandparents still around?
They're not.
Okay. So, which means you've still got enough time to get your parents to give you enough information about your grandparents. The day they go away, they take away your great grandparents and their grandparents' story with them. And which means you lose two generations.
Mm.
And when you say, I want to start with my parents, which means if you are not ready or whatever reason, you've lost so many generations down the line.
Yeah, I think I might share this with my mom. My mom, especially, I know that's not for everyone, but I know a lot of times people know more on their maternal side. I don't know if that's just like moms passing down their stories, but my mom has a lot to share about my grandmother. And when my grandmother passed away, it was a while ago, I was in college. But even at that time, and my grandmother lived a pretty full life, it was very difficult. It was a difficult loss because my mom was so close to her. So I definitely want to show this to her because I think she would want to document her story. There's a lot that she would share.
And don't wait. Then just go ahead and do it because that's where a lot of, as I said with the story, the friend who went out, that's where a lot of emotions come out. And that's where you start remembering and you pass on that story.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And
Pleasure.
the information will be in the show notes for the listeners. If you want to check out Life Index, love you forever. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. You have been such a joy to
Thank
have
you.
on the show today.
Pleasure. Thank you very much, Jackie.